Hey Jen, how are you today?
I am so good, Michelle. How are you today?
I'm good. I have to say, you're one of the gifts in the last 4 months, I would say, that have come into my life. And I really wasn't expecting it. And, sometimes, often I get approached about people being on the podcast. And as you know, I only do referrals. And Tanya Memi, our mutual friend, who's also on my podcast, introduced us. And I was just immediately drawn in, not only to your story, but honestly, by your ability to love so deeply.
Oh, Michelle, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I really,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have to say, like, I think the thing is, not everybody reads people well, right? And I think the thing is that when I connected to you, I saw this like deeper purpose about you, about how you want to use the sensitive experiences or the hurtful experiences from your life to actually propel other people forward. And it's like a giving back reciprocation that is really beautiful to see.
thank you. Yeah, it's interesting because as you're saying this, I have so many like things that pop into my head. And the first thing that popped into my head is, and this has happened my whole life, is I get prejudged.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it actually, in some ways, and we've talked about this a little bit, I think
A
it
little bit, yeah.
sometimes can hold, not hold me back, but stops opportunities from happening because I think people sort of see me in this box of like, oh, she's so put together, she's probably really shallow, there's probably not much in there. And with everybody, we all have a story to tell.
Exactly.
And I've been blessed with incredible opportunities, and experiences and really incredible stories, of some of them of trauma. And like you said, I've been given this gift, and it is a gift of styling, but that's not my purpose. And I realized through my work that what was I thought a job became more of an assignment for me.
Mm.
And I was able to use my gift to be of service. And I think that we're all given talents and gifts, and when we unearth those, we find our purpose. And so that's what happened to me. And so when you open a door for me, or when I get introduced to somebody, for me it's always twofold. It's one is I get to be seen for, just
For who
not
you
just
are, for who you are, not what you look like necessarily. Right?
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I also get to spread the message. And I really believe that if we don't go deep and probe the depths and heal the cracks and unearth that trauma underneath, it just keeps coming up. And so
Yeah.
when I'm able to do that, I not only heal myself, but I pave way for other people to heal them. And my modality just happened to be through fashion.
Well,
And
and
we
I also think to your point, is using the word fashion could make things sound so shallow, right? But I think that we know whether or not you're a stylist, a therapist, a hair stylist, by the way, um, we are all touching humans' lives. And in that, there's this exchange and this opportunity, like you're saying, to provide healing or to give a little deeper, a little bit more. And I think it's interesting because I saw you in action the night that we were at that party.
yeah.
And because people can say things, but until you actually experience them, do you really understand how good they're at something, right? So we were both sort of tasked separately with different things, right? But you weren't necessarily told like, oh, can you get everybody together and orchestrate them? But what we're referring to in this audience is that both Jen and I were part of this flash mob a couple of weeks ago. And honestly, I saw the leader in you come out, step up, and just be ready to help anybody. Like, meaning, like, none of us knew each other. It was 19 people that had never really worked together on any level. And some people had quote unquote style, and other people necessarily did not. But you were actually really good about like, put your collar up, move your hair like this, pose your legs like this, things that like you're saying, it's an art.
It's definitely an art. It's something that I think it can be learned. So I don't want people to, watch this and think, oh, you either have fashion or you don't. I think that
Yeah.
there are steps you can take to learn how to be a little bit more fashionable. But the goal really is to make you feel more confident and self-assured. And so for me, if I'm able to give that to anybody, that's my role. That's what I want to do. So there have been so many psychological studies done on the effects that clothing have on the wearer's psychological
Oh
process.
my
And
gosh, yes.
yeah, there's an actual term. It's called enclothed cognition. They've done so many studies on this. And so I know this because I've seen this transpire in so many of my clientele, and more so in my nonprofit. So
Mhm.
if I can just be a liaison to the fashion world for people and I can help them, then that's really my role. I mean, it makes me happy to see you happy. When you sent me messages saying, I felt really good that night. Like, I love these pictures, and that meant so
So
much to me.
happy. I was like, I got the best content ever. I was like, you need to come on my shoots, is what I was thinking.
I know I do get hired a lot for that, for
Well,
content.
I was thinking to myself, it was funny because
Overwhelming.
it is overwhelming and it's not natural for, I mean, I'm super real and just like show up as I am. But, just little things like when we were standing there together with Tanya and you're like, put your shoulders back, put your shirt down, stick your bottom out. And I was like, I don't have a bottom. I don't know how to do that. Like, it was very, I was like, oh, wow, thank you. And it allowed me to come out of my box,
Yeah.
I would say, and I really appreciated that. It gave me permission. That's what it was.
Oh, that's nice. I love to hear that.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. So before we go too far, let's give you a little bit of an introduction because we've
Okay.
already talked a little bit about how you're a stylist, and clearly in seeing how articulate you are, you're clearly a public speaker. You command audiences. You are a regular on Good Day LA, right? As well as KTLA. And I can see why, because obviously you command a presence. In addition, she is a mother of two. She's been married for 30 years. And if that's not a feat in California, I don't know. Uh, she's the author of this amazing book called A Common Thread, which is not just about being a stylist. This is
Not at
actually,
all.
yeah, this is,
Not at all.
we'll get into
Not
it
at
because
all.
I think it's
Yeah.
really important for us to talk about that. And she's the founder of a nonprofit called the Phoenix Effect, which is Phoenix Effect NP, correct?
Yes.
And it basically curates photo shoot experiences for people that suffer from debilitating experiences and diseases. And so when I said in the beginning that you come from love and that you just want to give back to people, I think that when we talk about all these different areas that you touch, it just reaffirms that it's
Thank
who
you.
you are.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So what I would love is for you to kind of talk a little bit about more from your perspective about these different things. Like, I know you didn't have an easy childhood,
Right.
and we've covered this, and it's a beautiful result of this like amazing book that you've come out with that more people need to go and buy. But like, tell me a little bit about like, how did you go from this really hard childhood into being a spokesperson on KTLA and Good Day LA? That doesn't just happen.
No, no, it doesn't. How did I do that?
She's like, let me look back.
I'm going to be really honest with you
Yeah.
and your viewers. I came from a religious upbringing. My grandfather was the chief Orthodox rabbi of Los Angeles for 53 years. He was black hat. I came from a traditional Jewish but religious home. And so I always had a connection to God. And so for me, the way I describe it is like my GPS map.
Yep.
My GPS map is my global positioning system. It knows exactly where I am on Earth at all times. And if I am diligent about putting in my directions into my global positioning system, my GPS map, it's going to get me to where I need to go from point A to point B the quickest and most efficient way possible. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to incur traffic, and it doesn't mean that I'm not going to get a flat tire, get into an accident. It just means that I will end up in my destination of where I'm supposed to be. So
Exactly.
so that's my God for me. So it's my good orderly direction. That's my God. So I have always felt that even though, and I've veered off in many different directions, and as you know, if your viewers end up getting my book, and I hope that they do, they will see that my life has gone in a lot of different trajectories. I have had, I mean, I've been arrested several times. I spent, I was handcuffed, taken to jail. I've been kicked out of school 4 times. I am
What
probably
for though? Curiously. What for?
shoplifting,
Mhm.
kicked out of school for fist fighting. I was a very angry teenager because of my upbringing. So in a nutshell, how did I get to where I am today? I think that with the guidance of my GPS map, my God, probing the depths, like I said, and healing the cracks, doing the real work,
Yeah.
and looking at my character defects and what I needed to heal along the way, and then really quieting my innermost core and listening to the divine downloads and
Mhm.
allowing that to guide me into writing my book, starting my nonprofit, starting the Wardrobe Wisdom Club, one step at a time, one client at a time. I realized that I was, all of the things that happened to me, all of the trauma that I went through is not for me. It's for me to share with the world so that I can not only heal myself, but heal others, and know that trauma is not a final destination. It's a journey, and we need to work through that, integrate that. We need to excavate the traumas and integrate them and move forward.
And how did you go about healing those things? Because
Oh, I've done a
it's
lot of.
not just it's not, I know both of us have done quite a bit of healing ourselves, and it's not one thing. It's always many things. And it's, in my opinion, never ending. We could keep unearthing these things.
Yeah.
So, but what do you find got you to where you are today? Like in that healing process?
Honesty,
Mm.
like pure, authentic honesty of looking inward and recognizing, not putting blame on others, taking responsibility for my own behavior, working through the trauma and knowing what my triggers are, and not putting up my defense mechanisms all the time, allowing my heart to open again to other people. Telling my story heals me each time I tell it, because I heal somebody else through that process. So, it was a combination of, obviously, I did some therapy. I've done a thing called the Hoffman group, the
Yeah.
Hoffman process, which was more of deep inner work of getting the trauma outside your body, like physical work, which I think is important too. I've done all
Like
sorts
a
of
bit somatic, actually.
somatic, yeah,
Awesome.
somatic.
Mhm.
I've done so much work, and it changes. I don't think that there's one healing process that's going to heal everything. I think we need to, like you said, constantly, as the trauma resurfaces, allow the universe to open up. People, I just had a session with you where we did
Yeah. The
beautiful
Akashic
stuff.
Records.
Yes, Akashic Records, which was something I never did, and that sort of opened up my mind to another source of healing for me. So,
Yeah.
I think it's just constant work, and I think the bottom line is going down, being honest with yourself, opening up, being vulnerable, and recognizing that we have a shadow and we have a light, and we have to integrate them both. The shadow will always be there. The dark will always be there. It's there for a reason. It's there to protect us too.
Mhm.
We can't just be all light. So it's
Absolutely.
integrating both.
Yeah. And you talk a little bit about that in your book, right? A Common Thread. And tell me the inspiration for the book, because I know, like you said, through your healing, you were guided to of the inspiration of the book and to release some of those things. But tell me a little bit about why it's called A Common Thread. And this kind of leads back to like how you're not just a stylist, it's much greater than that, and how stylistically there's so much therapeutic stuff involved in it.
Absolutely. I think marketing my book was probably the hardest thing to do, because it's not a fashion book.
Yeah.
Although you're going to get fashion tips and they're really fun, and there's a QR code that will lead you to live tutorials. So it's a very fun book, but it's also a very deep and spiritual book. The book, A Common Thread, is my unexpected journey through faith and fashion, and the common universal threads that connect us all. So they're the lessons that I learned that had a common thread of faith and fashion, of forgiveness, resilience, courage, humility, the things that we all as human beings are connected by. And they're my stories of how I was able to recognize these stories through this really unexpected modality of fashion. And so part of that was through my nonprofit. Part of it is just these little stories that all had a common thread of either a bag, an article of clothing that was passed down through generations, cleaning out somebody's closet after a client has passed away. So it's these lessons. And I think there are lessons in everything that we do through our talents, our creativities, our traumas, everything. If we really take the time to listen to our soul and what the message is trying to tell us. It's like getting into your GPS map, and you have to find the language. If I tune my GPS map to Italian,
Yeah.
it's going to sound fantastic listening to this Italian man speak to me in my car, but I'm going to get completely lost. So we have to recognize the language that the universe is speaking to us. And for me, that language just happened to be fashion. So they're beautiful stories. It's kind of like chicken soup for the soul, but in your closet. So they're these beautiful stories of connection, of human connection and fashion. And that's sort of what propelled me to write the book. And then through that, I wrote about my upbringing and how I have had clothing has been a part of my life since as far back as I can remember. I used clothing when I was a child to hide and protect myself. My grandmother and I used to go to the Jewish Federation where we would donate our time, and I would rummage through the clothing and I would dress up like a princess or, whatever, just to create this alter ego for myself, because I wanted to be anybody but me. And I came from abuse, and it was my time to just protect myself. And so I learned at a very young age that clothes can transform how we feel, how we behave, how we perform tasks. And that's a real thing, because it not only, if you look at a child engaging in role play, what they're doing is fascinating, but it's also, it's truth. It's, when we put on an article of clothing, we adopt the characteristics of that said piece of clothing. They do this in the movie industry all the time. In plays, actors don their costumes well before the play actually materializes, because they need to immerse themselves fully in character. So clothing is, it's important, and it's my role is
expression.
It's a form of self-expression. It is, without the use of verbal communication.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which goes back to your point originally of how it goes back to the phrase, don't judge a book by its cover, right? Because the depth of a person is so much greater than just their clothing.
Yeah. I do feel like one of my big lessons and missions is to tell people that we can hold two conflicting truths when it comes to judging a book by its cover. I'm here because not only do I dress the cover of your book so that you're recognizable, memorable, and at its best, so that our clothes can open up opportunities for us in business, etc. So my role is to help you dress the cover of your book and brand you. But on the other side of it, on the more spiritual and deeper side of it, it's also, I'm here to tell you that it's your book that you need to dress the cover of. And be careful when you judge a book by its cover, because you might miss a bestseller. There's a great story in my book about me judging a book by its cover. It's a beautiful story, and it taught me that very valuable lesson. And we don't get to
tell me about the lesson. Just curious.
So I was in the Redwoods with my soul sister, and we were given a task. We were given a task of choosing a name out of a basket, and that name would be our angel for the weekend. And we couldn't look for our angels. We just had to allow the universe to bring the angels to us. Anyway, I met my angel at 5:30 in the morning on accident when I got up to go get a cup of coffee, and I judged her very quickly. She was wearing oversized sweats, a hole in the toe. She looked like she's just sort of like rolled out of bed. And here I am in my Alexander Wang sweatsuit with my lip gloss and I looked like, not like somebody at 5:30 in the morning. And we started talking, and I realized that she was my angel that I pulled out of the hat.
Wow.
She judged me too. She was like, "Oh yeah, you're like way too put together for me." And we didn't give each other a chance really to get to know each other. But at the end of this retreat, we had to do a series of tasks where we had to stand across from each other. And we were given a series of statements. And if we recognized the statements, we had to step forward towards each other and back. And it was sort of this dance between the two of us to our traumas and our past pains. And we realized as we were dancing, tears streaming down our faces, that we had so much in common, that at the end of this dance, I mean, we just literally embraced each other and realized, wow, we should not have done that. She actually knew
That
me.
interesting about mirroring. And you know what? It feels to me it's a little bit about being in presence, being present to the opportunity versus like, and stepping into the opportunity versus being an observer of it, right? And like we're saying, judgment is observation sometimes. And so that's very interesting.
Yeah, it was a beautiful story, and it's in the book, and I'm just giving you a little snippet of it, but it's a great story. So
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like when we're talking about, because before the book you had this nonprofit, right? Okay.
yes.
So how did the nonprofit come about? Was that through being on television, or you just saw a need, or
So I have a term I like to call a God shot. It's a divine download, a visceral knowing, an intuitive intuition, a creative urge. And I think we all get them. And I think that one of our biggest mistakes is that we don't act on them quickly and we let them fall to the wayside. So I get my spiritual downloads when I'm out in nature, which is something I have to do very often. So I was out on a run. My kids were getting older, and I have two beautiful sons. I don't have a daughter. My mother left when I was 6 months old. It's all in the book. I don't have sisters. I have a lot of nephews. I have one niece, thank God. But I'm surrounded predominantly by males. And my boys were getting older. And I've always heard that when boys move away and they get married, they leave their mothers, and girls always stay close to their mothers. And I was starting to feel this effect and this fear, false evidence appearing real, right? That my kids were going to leave me. And I started going down the rabbit hole. And as I was going down the rabbit hole, I figuratively and literally heard stop. And so I
wow.
came, and the next thing I got was this download of give your gift away, Jen. Like, you have this gift. And my bubby used to say, you are blessed to be a blessing. And I am blessed. And so I thought, well, what can I do with my gift of styling? And I thought, what if I give a photo shoot away? I mean, you experienced just a snippet of,
Oh yeah.
posing.
I mean, if you I could see you orchestrating something that would be incredible.
It's
So
beautiful. And
yeah.
so I decided to give my gift away. And long story short, there was this girl that lived in my neighborhood that was visiting this little girl who had cancer. And I called her from the road, and I spoke to her on the phone, and I said, are you close with this family? And she said, they're really sweet. I'm going to give you their number. I love this idea, Jen, that you have. And I called him and I said, my name is Jen. I live in the area. I got your name from so-and-so. And I understand you have a daughter who's suffering and, is in treatment for cancer. And I'd like to give you this no strings attached photo shoot. And he said, is this Jen Principe? And I said, yeah. And he said, Jen, this is Jeff Feldman. This is Jeremy, my son's first baseball coach.
Wow.
And it was like, I got chills, and I knew that this was what I was supposed to be doing. And so Zoe was
The body doesn't lie. That's the thing, is that a lot of people don't realize that when you feel something in your body, that's your body speaking to you through emotions. So,
absolutely.
but we don't listen. Like you're saying, signs happen, but we don't listen, you know?
So Zoe was my first, and then after that, I don't know. The universe kept bringing me more, and then I got a call from a girl named Shandell, who's still in my life, and she said, I have cerebral palsy. I don't have cancer. Does that count? And then the age started getting a little bit older, and what I realized is that it doesn't really matter what age you are. When you're younger, it's just playful, and it's really beautiful for the families to see their child feel like a normal child for a day and just get a respite from being poked and prodded and in the hospital. But when you're an adult and you've gone through losing your hair or trauma, you lose a part of yourself, a part of that femininity during the process. And so I called it the Phoenix effect, because metaphorically that Phoenix has to surrender to the fire in order to be rebirthed into a newer, stronger self. And I believe, Michelle, that we all are part of the Phoenix journey, whether we dive in ourselves, and we do, through divorce, leaving a job, leaving a toxic friendship, through illness, whatever that is. But we, I think, as a human being, have a responsibility to help that Phoenix rise out of the ashes as well. And so I named it the Phoenix effect. And I have a full team. I don't take responsibility. My team shows up every time. We curate a photo shoot. We give a personalized coffee table book, and now we give away wardrobes and wishes. And so it's a beautiful experience. And I do believe that that is my purpose here.
How long ago did you start it?
8 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
8 years. And we've traveled out of state, and I'm actually looking for my next Phoenix right now. So
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
out there. Yeah, I'm looking for my next Phoenix. I look for somebody that really could use this experience, who has a story to be told. We do a little interview with them because we want to educate people along the way as to what their illnesses are, how they can prevent it, how they can help others get through.
How's the application process work? Like, basically people just go to your website, or
they can either go to my website, or if you go to my Instagram, Jen Principe Styles, in my link tree, I have a nominate a Phoenix, and you just nominate the Phoenix, and then my team, we go through the nominations, and then we pick somebody, and there's no cost involved whatsoever. It's
is
just
there an annual like event that the Phoenix gets honored, or how does that work?
Yeah, not yet. This year I'm doing an event. I've teamed up with Children's Hospital, and we're doing an event at Finish Line in March. But all of the funds will go to Children's Hospital. I haven't done my own event. I usually do a fundraiser for my birthday every year. I ask people not to give me a present, because that's a big present. It's just to donate. And now that I'm an official 501c3 and people see it, if anybody's watching, go to my website. You have to see the photos. It will make you cry. It's really beautiful. And then people they love it, because they know that every dollar goes towards a Phoenix. And that's how I raise
How
money.
many Phoenixes have you had?
I don't know. I don't know, probably 20.
Wow.
Try to do 2 or 3 a year.
That's nice.
Action.
Because some people like limit it to like one a year. And so that's beautiful that in 8 years you've had around 20. That's really good. Considering, because like you said, going back to the humanization of giving them the ability to feel feminine again, or not even if they're, because they may not be females, but like, allowing them to feel beautiful or whole or identify with themselves, right? Because that's what you're really saying, is that so many of them lose identification.
Yeah, I think that they birth newer versions of themselves through the Phoenix effect. I really do. I've seen it happen over and over again. It's also, when they first get there, they don't even know what to expect, and they're afraid. It's like, I'm going to be in front of a camera. But during the process, it's remarkable to watch them come alive, fully come alive, and just embrace who they are. They have so much strength because of what they've been through. And I have some Phoenixes like Chandel. I just spoke to her today, and she wanted to now be a model and showcase her disability.
Wow, that's amazing.
Amazing. And, I don't have daughters, but I do. I have daughters all over now through the Phoenix effect. I stay in touch with so many of them. And
providing people with so much inspiration.
100%, 100%. They always leave feeling so inspired and so good about themselves and courageous, because they've done the experience.
Yeah.
Because it's scary. So they walk away feeling empowered, courageous. They feel more self-assured, more self-esteem. It's a beautiful experience, not only for them, but for us, for the whole team.
So tell me, when you're talking about basically these different parts of your business, right? Because people say this to me a lot, like, well, how do you have a podcast, do coaching, do yoga classes, do retreats? How do you spread out your time? Like, and like when you're looking at it, like, is there like a percentage time? Because it's clear that you're driven, right? There's like, for you, you're the type of person that if somebody puts something amazing on your lap or interesting, it's hard for you to say no.
It is hard for me to say no, and I'm learning to say no.
Mm.
I am learning to say no. I
Because that's actually funny enough. That's one of the things we talked about in our first call was how do you it do you have something you need to focus on? Is
Yeah, I
there
do.
one thing you need to focus on more than others?
Yeah, I do. So I mean, I recently got a call from Good Day LA. They wanted me to do a segment that was really fun. And as much as I love being on TV, I turned it down. And the reason being is because I want to only do the projects that are going to serve my main purposes. And my two main purposes are to public speak so that I can send the message out, share my gift, and for people to read the book. Not because the book, I need the money. It's not. It's because I want people to resonate and feel empowered through my stories to tell their story. So that is my main goal, is to do the public speaking and to talk about how I've come out of trauma and into service and how we can use our gifts to be of service. And then my second purpose is to grow my nonprofit. Those are my two main priorities right now. The styling just comes. It just does. So I'll get a call and I have to vet a client. I have to make sure we're a match. And that's really my purpose. And then my Wardrobe Wisdom Club is again for people, and we haven't talked about that, but that is an online freestyling platform for people that can't afford the luxury of a personal stylist, because it is a luxury expense. And I know that I'm expensive and you have to invest in yourself by purchasing clothes. But a lot of people can't afford that. And I want to be able to, I have so much knowledge through the years of being a personal stylist for 12 years. I want to share that knowledge with people. And
Did you
so,
find it difficult to start your styling business, or were you already speaking at like KTLA and
oh no, I wasn't speaking. I had no idea I was even good at TV. I know I'd never been on TV.
yeah.
I started my business because my kids were getting older and I needed something to do. And I've always had a eye for fashion. I love it. And I knew I was good at it. And the minute I launched, I got busy. I got booked and I got busy. That was never an issue. The other things, writing the book, that took so much discipline and courage.
How long did it take you to write your book?
2 years. It took me 2 years.
And tell me about that process. Like, was it sometimes rewarding, sometimes grueling?
Yes, 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 and yes.
Do you have to set like time aside to do it? Because it's funny because I'm actually I have many book ideas, but I am about to embark on this process myself. So self-servingly, but I know there's a lot of women who would love to write a book.
Yes, yes. I've heard this so many times. The first thing I'm going to say is if I can write a book, anybody can write a book. I am the least likely person to write a book. I was fortunate in that I co-authored the book with God. So, and I know that because I was inspired. I was woken up at the same time every single night. I wrote a lot in the middle of the night, which was difficult because I had to get out of bed and I had to trust that I was being guided. And so I wrote a lot in the middle of the night from 11 o'clock until 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I would and it would pour out of me. And there were times when I would stop and cry and literally say, thank you. I don't know why, I don't, but thank you. And I would just write. Other times when I had a block, I would go on a run and it would come. It just always came because I knew I was supposed to put this book out. Now, the hardest parts of the book were self-doubt. I'm not good enough. Who am I to write a book? It's not good. I don't know. Like, this is not going to happen. Total self-doubt, which I think everybody's going to run into. And then putting my story out on paper and knowing that it was going to hurt my family. I lost a brother in the process. That was the most painful part of this journey, and still pains me to this day. And then the other part of the book was just knowing that there are going to be people that are going to not like it and have their opinions and and bash me, but it's worth the risk.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because when you describe the process of the book, it feels like its own version of a Phoenix Rising.
It absolutely is. dove into the fire. I
Mm.
dove into the fire and I birthed anew. I did. I healed so many cracks. Um, I I revisited lessons that I forgot about that I needed to apply during this process.
Did you have like a support system? Like, did you have a coach or like a ghostwriter or somebody
Oh, oh, oh,
kind of
oh,
helping you through the
oh.
process?
Yes, on a personal level, my family was my biggest support system, and I had a few friends that were constantly encouraging me. As far as a editor, I had an editor, Audrey Yap. If you're watching, Audrey, thank you.
Yeah.
Audrey was incredible. I would write a chapter and a chapter two, and I would send it to her for editing as I went along. And that was a really good process for me because I was able to move forward because she was expecting more chapters. I was paying her to do it. I also could see she's brilliant and she stayed so true to who I was in my writing. She
Mhm.
just
That's like
massaged
the
it
hard
in a
thing
way.
sometimes. Mhm.
She's brilliant and she massaged it in a way that felt so authentic to me and yet she, something I couldn't have done. Her expertise in writing was just phenomenal. So I was very thankful for that. And then when it came to the publishing, I had Shayla, who helped me do all the publishing because I could have never done that. I'm not computer savvy. So yes,
Yeah.
I had support systems along the way. But the writing itself, I did all
It has
of the
to come from your
it not
heart. I
goes
mean,
by.
first of all, it's your personal story. And so it's,
Nobody could have done it.
I
Yeah.
hear you. So, it's interesting because you've overcome so much. What would you say like your greatest fear is in life? And how do you overcome it? Because it's like they're truly like when we've talked, I just feel like obstacles get placed in your way, but like, do you get stopped?
Yeah, I mean, listen, some of my greatest fears, which I'm not going to talk about, have come true. And so I've had to work through those and realize I'm a survivor. I'm fine.
Mm.
I'm going to be fine. I think that, having fear is normal. It's just getting through the fear and embracing your courage. And every time we do that and step out of fear and one step at a time, we just move forward. We're all going to be fearful. I fear every time I step out on to the stage to public speak. Every time I go on TV, I fear. Every time I do an Instagram post,
Mhm.
it's so silly. What are people going to think? Is this good enough?
Mhm.
That's my, I think, and a universal fear is, are we good enough? And I'm still
Mhm.
working on that. So I
Mhm.
have to write down sometimes the things that I've accomplished to go,
Oh
okay, Jen,
yeah, exactly. Like actually acknowledge yourself.
I do. I really do.
Of grace, because actually I'd say that that's something that a lot of women struggle with is that no matter how successful you are, you're constantly thinking it's not enough.
It's not enough. It's not enough. And I've worked on that actually through our Akashic records. And I had I just did a session with somebody that I follow on Instagram, uh, Jeff Brown. I don't know if you know who he is, but
No,
he's,
yeah, tell me.
I'm going to send you his books. He's remarkable. But I did a session with him. And I think one of the things for me is I was attaching to the outcome of things. I had this sort of this huge vision of where I wanted to be. It's like, oh, I want to be on Kelly Clarkson and I want to be on, Good Morning America. And I want to be on it. And I want to be a bestseller. And I'm working. And it's like things aren't happening in that particular order. It doesn't mean they're not going to.
Divine
Maybe,
timing.
maybe they won't. But whatever it is, I have to be okay with. Jen, you wrote a beautiful book that's changing lives. You have a nonprofit that has changed lives. You have followed your purpose and your soul's calling.
Yes. Well, I think one of the things I love that you're talking about that you listen to your divine downloads. And I think when it comes to our life journey, there is no timing. And suddenly it surfaces like 10 years later. And you're like, where did this come from?
I just was reading there's a book, it's called Articulations by Jeff Brown. And I just read Our Soul Does Not Wear a Watch.
Mhm. It doesn't, because
Oh,
that's the reality is that we're meant for it to surface in its own appropriate time, but we put so much control around it.
We do. And in fact, in my book, in the very last chapter, I talk about, I've always played this game, what if? What if that had happened? What if I went to college over there? What if that, there's a story in my book, you're going to read it, and I'm not going to tell you about it, but it's a story of humility. I shut my business down for almost 2 years after this happened because of what happened. It was so big and it did not happen. And it was like, I couldn't even believe what had happened, but it was such a story of rising and humility and forcing pieces that don't fit. And now that I'm 12 years later, and I look back and I think, what if that had actually happened and taken off? I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. I needed to learn those lessons for all these. So it's like retrospect offers us the wisdom that we can't see in the present moment. So I like to play the game of what if.
Yeah, I think what if is important, as long as it's not destructive.
Right.
Because many people stop themselves from moving forward because going back to fear, right? So then they play the what if game, and then they're like, they think about but what I like to add with what if is, what's the worst thing that can happen? And when we do that, we really realize there's very little that can happen that's going to be so awful, right? That we can't handle it.
For some. For
some. But my question for you too is, like, sometimes people that have such complicated childhoods never quite make it to that next step. And there's so many blocks in front of them. Do you feel like God or your relationship to God was really what, when we talk about the radar, like I like to use a compass, right? So like on Empower, I always have that arrow. That arrow represents a real working compass for me of where I am in my life, right? And I think for you, and I mean, I also am super spiritual and religious, as you know, as well. Like, is it God that helped you through, or what do you feel really helped you?
Yes, I do. I think that, first of all, I think religion and spirituality are not synonymous. And so I think sometimes people really get caught up, and I don't believe in God because I don't believe in organized religion.
Yes, I
And
totally agree.
there's a lot of I don't really believe in organized religion, although there are parts of my religion I absolutely love. So I pick and choose what, but I wholeheartedly
what
believe.
serves us, right?
Yeah. And I wholeheartedly believe that God speaks through people and situations. And so that has been what has guided me, are the people that have come into my life to show me lessons. Some of them have been extremely painful, but that's part of my journey through my upbringing and the abuse that went on in my home and all of those things, along with toxic friendships and those kinds of things. But those were soul contracts that I needed in this lifetime in order for me to grow. So yeah, I believe God is my, good orderly direction, like my GPS map. And so for me, thankfully, that has helped me. Now, for other people, it's been music or poetry or art or whatever that is that feeds your soul. Lean into that, and then lean into it more, and then lean into it more, and then give it away. That, I think, is what heals.
That's the recipe.
That's the recipe.
That's actually the recipe for love too. It's not just the recipe for purpose or healing or definition of who you are. It's the recipe for love is to learn all those things, but then to give it away. What a beautiful statement.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous, Jen. Really beautiful. Really well said. So I also always like to ask people what their top 5 core values are, because I always think it's interesting to understand how people are intrinsically motivated.
Family, number one. Family. And that doesn't mean immediate family. That means the family that God brought you.
Your soul family.
Your soul family. That's where you need to put your energy. Service would be number 2. Service. God, number 1. Family, service. Brutal honesty with yourself. Probably Never really
Can
even
I
put
give
those.
you one?
Yes,
We could
please.
play my game together, but I think you're really kind.
Thank you.
Kindness is one of the things that, again, I think you really like going back to your saying brutal honesty. I wouldn't say that you're brutally honest, but some people would receive that and be like, oh, is she just really cutting? But
Oh yeah.
you're very gentle and kind.
Yeah, I thank you. And I think part of that's just being vulnerable and open, allowing my heart to open
Mhm.
and to listen and just to listen and just be there, for not only my friends, but for strangers. I've had so many, and there's so many in my book you will read, so many encounters in my life that are just unbelievable because I opened my heart.
Well,
I mean,
and
they're unbelievable.
you're speaking my language today. I love it. Like,
Yeah.
that's the lesson is that so many people withdraw their heart from any decision making. Our heart doesn't lie. The reason why heart disease is one of the highest things that people die from, or even men, particularly, and on the rise for women, is because they close off their heart. Our
So
mind doesn't tell us the truth, our
it's
heart doesn't lie.
so true. And it's, and they close their hearts. There's an analogy that I have in my book about, I had a producer. I was on a show called Inside Beverly Hills. I was their stylist, and they followed me around camera in Beverly Hills. It was so much fun. But at the end, we sat down and we talked, and like you, she was like, holy shit, Jen, I had no idea that like you were this person. I thought you were, just kind of material. And she said, you weren't born in a Fabergé egg.
Oh my
And
God.
I love that because for years I was adorning my Fabergé egg to hide the cracks.
Mm,
And, I had to be cracked wide open in order for me to be seen and to be loved and to be whole.
mhm.
And there are so many Fabergé eggs walking around adorning themselves with fashionable clothing and labels because they're so afraid of revealing those cracks within. And yet we're all cracked. And it makes you feel comfortable when I open up and say, yeah, I feel that too.
Mhm.
I don't feel like I'm good enough. I'm a
Well,
little insecure. And
it's a relatability, right? I mean, we're all looking for connection and we're all looking for
right
to
there.
be loved. And
That's it.
so, like, if you can provide a pathway for people, which you're doing that on multiple levels, because it's like you have the very high end, and then you have the people that can't afford it that you're trying to reach, and you have a free tool for them to be able to access to for their own styling services. So, one of the things I want to be really clear on, what is the definition of a stylist for those people who actually have never even heard of it?
I've never even looked that up. I mean, my definition is so there's image consultants, which is part
Yeah.
of my job. So, as a stylist, a fashion stylist, I'm going to meet with you. I'm going to have a conversation and we're going to analyze what your basic needs are, who you are. My job is to find a fashion vibe that resonates for you, that feels authentic to you, that complements your skin, your body type, and your lifestyle. And then we're going to come up with a budget, how much you want to invest in yourself. And then I show you how to dress accordingly so that you can step out into the world feeling confident and self-assured, but you.
Yes, not
But
somebody else, not feeling like you have to go buy that bag because everybody else has the bag.
yeah.
That's
So one of the things I think that, when you're looking at, for example, if you look at my website, you might look and go, yeah, I wouldn't wear that. But you have to remember, I work with the head of, I can't say, but I work with very, very conservative political women. And I work with people that are actors and actresses that are, size 0, that are 5'10", that have, so I work with every age, and I work with men in that 30% of my business is men. So they
yes,
don't like to shop and they like to look good.
exactly.
So my job is really to create a cover for you that is authentic to you, that's recognizable, that's memorable, that's at its best, that makes you feel authentic and true to you so that you can step out feeling really confident about yourself. So that you
What
can do
was
your job.
what was the most entertaining and fun client that you ever had?
Oh my goodness. I don't have one. I have a few that are great because they will listen to me from start to finish. They will be adventurous. They'll trust me. And then I get picks. Jen, you were right. Oh my God, I got so many compliments. And they don't change things. Now I have other clients that I will style them start to finish, and then they will throw on their shoe, their bag. And it's like, oh, but it makes them feel really good.
Yeah.
And so and the point is for them to step out and feel really great. I don't think I've had one in particular person. I worked, and I can't say who it is because I signed an NDA. So I did work, I can't say.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. So
But I love when people listen and they take my advice and they trust me. They trust me.
yeah, I think that's a big, well, actually, I think trust is one of your values too.
Trust is probably, it's way up there. Yes, trust.
Yeah,
I have
you said honesty, but trust and
I need
honesty kind of go together. But one of my last questions for you is really, you want to public speak, right?
yes.
And I know you're doing it, but I think you see even broader audiences that you're reaching. Like, what do you see? Like, if you were to like paint this mural for yourself, and it's like, these are the three places I really want to speak. What are they? And how do you get there?
Okay. I don't know about three specific places. I'd like to speak for colleges,
Mm-hmm.
universities. I'd like to speak to young adults who are stepping out into the world so that I can not only encourage them to listen to their calling, but also to talk about just the different directions in which I've gone and overcoming adversity and traumas. So universities is one area I'd like to
You know,
speak.
universities, I mean, I worked at 2 universities. They have a lot of women's conferences. You'd be perfect at that.
Okay. Yeah, part of it is I just don't know how to do it. So universities is one.
That's another reason why we met.
Yes. Any religious platform, any
Okay.
religious platform, because my message is not about a specific religion at all. So any religious, and then any spirituality platform out there, because my message has a component to it that is spiritual. And I think people can resonate with it. So
Have you
those are
looked at the Gaia Network?
Mhm.
You should look at the Gaia Network.
Okay.
That would be really good for you.
I'm going to email you after this. So, but I visualize this. I sit and, I do a lot of meditation, of course. And so I've literally visualized myself, what I'm wearing, walking out on the stage, feeling love, knowing that they're feeling it reciprocal.
Mm.
I have even a song I want to play, people feeling just each other's energy, people resonating with the stories, loving them, me signing my book and meeting people and it just talking to people. And I visualized it.
Mm.
Thousands of people.
I love that. Well, one thing we know is that when you develop a clear vision, it will come to life. And I think, even in the short period of time that I've known you, you're more clear.
Thank you.
Because 4 months ago or whatever it wasn't that you weren't clear, but you're getting very crystallized right now. And that's when things start to unravel and open up. And we know that. So
it's hard because I have so many different, avenues.
I think when we go back to divine timing, it's like everything can happen, but not all at once. Right. So what thing are you focusing on for today? So it's like when I, as a coach, talk openly about goals, right? Because I have a lot of goals and they will all get done. It's just not all right now. So it's like, my book idea. So I was like, all right, September, you're going to find somebody that I like accountability and I need a group. I'm about community. That's one of my values. So I have to actually be supported in that way. Discipline. There it goes.
You know what? I'm accountability too. And when I told people I'm in the process of writing a book, that shifted because people would say, how's your book coming along?
Yes,
When's
exactly.
your book coming out? Can't wait to read your book.
And there was a part of you that
I felt accountable. I felt accountable. So once you put it out there, you're right. You're right.
Because once you put it out there, it becomes real, right? It's like when they say, like, when you put a goal down to paper, it's real, right? So anyways, I just want to thank you for your time. and
Thank
for
you.
sharing your gifts and your magic to the world, and for having the courage to be so vulnerable to share your life story. Really, like your childhood was not easy. And I think when you all buy the book, and listen, at the end of the day, anyone can connect to the idea of how fashion is a vehicle to reveal our true selves.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
beautiful.
Just so you know, my book is available on Amazon,
Mhm.
Barnes and Noble online, and on my website. And you can follow me on Instagram, Jen
Yeah,
Principe.
can you give them all that information?
Yes, again.
Yes.
Okay, so my Instagram is Jen Principe Styles. You can follow me there. You can nominate a Phoenix there. Go to my link tree. You can join my Wardrobe Wisdom Club there. You can even purchase my book there. Or you can purchase my book at Barnes and Noble or Amazon
Or direct from your website,
or from my website, jpstyles.com.
jpstyles.com. Got it. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. I
For
really,
having me.
you
Thank you
know
for
what?
having me.
Anytime. Thank
You-
you. Thank you for your gift.
Thank you.